Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak on this subject. Anytime I get the opportunity, I try to take advantage of it. The fact that you're here, hopefully I can give you some information that will be beneficial to you that you can use when you leave here. And, you know, for the Home Run Club to sponsor something like that, to include just a talk on it, says a lot. There's a lot of misconceptions with regard to what training looks like, what it can do, what it should do, what people think, you know, it's capable of doing. And I'm going to talk about, there's 6 points I want to talk about today. I'm going to go over, there's a handout that I brought. There's a nutrition handout. I'll talk a little bit about it. We could talk forever on it, but there's a handout on there that just gives you some guidelines. It's not my stuff. It's from Coach Gentry from Virginia Tech. I thought it was probably the best summary I've seen that just puts nutrition stuff together. So you can grab that on your way out or at any time. And then I've got an outline over there, just some of the things that I talked about today. So if you want to go back and reference that, that would be fine. So to have a facility where you can get not only your baseball skill work done, all right, times have changed a little bit. You know, you have to work on your baseball skills, but it is extremely important if we can make you more explosive, faster, quicker first step, more power, all right, we can help all those things that you're trying to do out there on the baseball field, all right? And you absolutely can do that with the right program. You can go into a lot of gyms and they got weights, all right? And there's a difference between lifting weights and training to enhance performance. This is a performance enhancement gym. It's not about getting big biceps and how much you can bench press and looking pretty, you know, for the beach. This is about preparing to be a better athlete. And this facility has got it all right? And the fact that they have put it together like that, I think, says a lot. First point I want to talk about, I heard it Friday when I was here with everybody that was talking Friday, and it was work ethic. You hear it all the time. There's a reason you hear it all the time. It's extremely important. My middle son, Danny, was not recruited at all, really wanted to play football, but didn't really have that opportunity. We went to camp after camp after camp. I thought he tested really well. I thought he performed really well. Nobody really seemed to be interested in him. All right? And then Virginia Tech finally gave him a little bit of an opportunity. And that's all he had asked for. Goes down there, and luckily things worked out for him. Feeling pretty good. The internet thing goes, you know, he gets on that. He comes to me one night and he says, "Dad, read this." And this is after they had signed him. Danny Coale was a mistake. Too slow. Will never get on the field at Virginia Tech. And I said to him, well, what do you think about that? He said, "They're wrong." That's all he said. He said, "They're wrong." All right? And I knew right then he wasn't going to have a problem because all he needed was that opportunity. And he worked so hard at preparing to be the best that he could be, and it was in this kind of place. I mean, it took place right here, all right? Because he wasn't going to let anybody else beat him from that end of it, all right? And if he did as much as he could do there, and it didn't work out, then it didn't work out. But it was that work ethic that he had that really set the tone for him. And I hope you understand that it's just not something that you can do on an inconsistent basis. It's got to be part of it. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't have to be very complicated. It's relatively simple, all right? And it doesn't, it's something that you can do during your school year, all year round. And I'm going to show you some things today that you need to do. All right, so work ethic is important. The second point is, how do we train to be a better athlete, and what's important? I don't know anything about hitting, but I've been watching it a little bit here from Denny, all right? And, you know, I know there's a transfer weight, and I'm probably going to say a lot of wrong things, but when I see somebody go from here to here, what I'm looking at is this, all right, which generated from the legs. I see somebody swing a golf club, and you don't want to see me swing one, all right, but I see this transfer weight, and I see this. all right? I'm a boxing coach too at VMI, all right? And you know, if somebody's going to throw a jab, they don't throw it here. They throw it from the ball of the right foot, all right? And then it's all right here. If they're going to throw a cross, it's from the back foot, through the hips, through the body, okay? You guys are swinging a bat, bam, it's right there, all right? You're going to be hard-pressed, football, making a tackle, to find an activity, and I call it the big house, all right? It's right here, this thing, all right? There are a lot of important muscles for baseball players, and I'm sure I'm not, you know, schooled enough to know all of them. This is the best muscle you got as an athlete. You have to train it, okay? Speed's important in any sport. You don't see world-class sprinters with a small butt. There's a good reason, all right, because it's the most important muscle they have. All right, so we're going to work this muscle so that it extends the hip, all right? So, okay, Ryan, just extend your heel back like that. Yeah. All right, when you run, your foot hits the ground and you have this phase of it's right here. All right? So if you're squatting and not squatting properly and not engaging the glutes, you're not helping yourself. All right? This is important. All right? The core is important, obviously. Upper body is important. Okay? But if we don't hit this, baby, we're missing the point. All right? And we got to train it, and we got to train it properly. I call it the big house because it's all about this gluteal muscle that we have right here. All right, now how do we train that muscle? All right. So if we're going to squat, we want to squat in a position. Now just hold your arms out straight, right? Okay, now just squat down about half a squat. Okay, now I see guys squat like this all the time. I see guys leg press all the time. What have we engaged in this position? Well, we've engaged the quads. We've engaged some of the hamstrings, all right? But we haven't gotten this thing yet. Keep going. There you go. Right here to right there is the most important part of this exercise. So when he starts off and he comes down, he's got to control himself. The lower he goes, right there. Keep going. Right there. That's the most important part of the lift. He comes out of it, bam, he's gotten the glutes. That's exactly the muscle that's going to extend his hips when he's running from first to second, second to third, third to home, or what? If he goes shorter than parallel, he's strengthening muscles, but we're not getting the muscle that we want to get. We want to hit this muscle right here. I see this all the time too when I go to local high schools. And you got to be careful because I'm telling you to squat, but I don't want you just to go in there and squat, and often it's about what? You go in a weight room, you guys know. You go in a weight room, and it's all about weight on the bar, and it's more about what? How much, right? How much? Doesn't matter. If you're squatting a bar, and that's all you can squat with good technique, you're strengthening something. All right, so if you go down, went to a doctor's office one day, and we just got to talking, and we talking about, what I asked what I did. I told him. He goes, well, that squat's got to be the worst exercise in the world. And I'm thinking, well, I think it's the best exercise in the world, so why is it so bad? Well, the school system that he was close to, they had done that. He'd seen football practice had started. They had tested, and he'd seen a lot of kids that came in that had hurt themselves. Their knees were hurting from squatting because they went down, and instead of engaging the hips back, head up and chest up in an athletic position, we're forward, we're on our toes, the weight is now on our knees, and we're bouncing. All right? It ain't doing anything but hurting you. But if you can squat, sit back, get those glutes engaged in this position, there's nothing better in the world for you. And if you just use the bar, and that's what it takes initially, then you're fine. Okay, because you don't want to do it improperly. All right? So it all kind of starts right there. So we need to figure out how to train that muscle. Another great exercise that we can do is just do a single leg squat off of the bench with your foot up here. Okay, and you can start off with body weight, add weight later, or what. But this is a good exercise because it's doing the same thing. All right, so see, he's working this right glute right now. good up, you know, when you, athletic position, chest up, head down, head up, chest up, all right? And we're working that glute. And then we just switch legs and do some reps with the other foot, okay? You can do that with body weight and then add these things later, all right? So that type of exercise. Now, we've got single leg exercises and you got exercises like the squat. All right, so I'm often asked, what exercise should I do? Squats with a bar? Should I squat? Single legs? What should I do? You can also lunge. Just do some lunge steps here. Just, you can see the depth that he's getting. All right. Okay, now step up. Do some step ups on that thing. Again, watch. The top leg is parallel. That right foot is, or that right leg is parallel. So he's engaging that glute well. All right, good. Okay. So we're talking about speed. Okay. A lot of times, speed's predicated by your weakest. One leg's usually stronger than the other. Right. So if we always do leg press, we always do squat. So we got a bar on the back and we're here. All right. We're getting some good base strength, but we're not doing anything for the weaker leg. All right, so it's important to strengthen each leg unilaterally so that if I'm going to run a 60 or whatever they do for baseball or a 40 for football, your limiting factor is going to be your weaker leg, and everybody in here has one. So if we don't do some single leg activities, we're never going to get the weaker leg up to the point where we need to, so that we've improved that weakness that we have. Does that make sense? All right, so the advantage of doing single leg activities is huge because it allows you to work that weakness, which is actually going to probably make you faster than anything, simply because now I don't have that imbalance in strength. I've got a balance in strength. All right? Any questions on the lower body, basically this hip area that I'm talking about? I'm going to move on and talk about another area, but any questions that you have with regards to squats, step-ups, single leg activities, form and technique, or anything like that that I can help you with at this point? We'll come back at the end, but okay. All right, that's lower body exercises. Also with that, it's important to, how often do you hear first step? First step is important, right? I mean, you just got to be able to fire out of there and be explosive. So we have to train explosively. We can't train and not incorporate the explosive part of it. All right, so let's just go over an exercise that I love to do, and you can do this. I do this with 8-year-olds, okay? We'll do a snatch with both feet with a dumbbell. Again, watch the chest, watch the butt, watch a good athletic position, and then watch when you come up how explosive you have to be to finish the lift. Okay. And when he gets it overhead, he's got to stabilize all this good stuff in here in order to keep his balance. All right. Okay, and I'll do two with the other hand. So we'll do 3 or 5 with each hand, but it's just a quick explosive, and you're firing those muscles and your fast twitch muscles. All right. Now we can take it one step further and say, let's do single leg. So he's going to snatch with his right hand and just do it on his right foot. Yeah, you're not jumping up on anything. You're just doing the single leg. We usually use a box, so he's a little bit confused here, but just. Oh. Okay, now it requires a little more explosiveness, a little more speed. But balance. Okay, now we're going to come back and do 2 on the left. Okay, and I like to actually see athletes lose their balance a little bit because that means we got something we can work on. If you did it perfect, you know, there's no sense in doing it. That's a little bit of a difficult movement, but it works at balance, it works at explosiveness, and it is an excellent exercise for first step movements. All right? And how important is that first step
on anything that you do as an athlete, especially for baseball. Whether you're infield, outfield, you're running, getting out of the box and taking off, wherever it may be. All right, so we've got those explosive exercises you can do. We can also do another good one that I like is just do a couple hang pulls, right? All right, so we got the bar. All right, and we can go from a hang position or we can go from a power position. A power position would just be, just stay, yeah, pull it right to you. All right, that's the power position. We'll pull from here, and there are new exercises we can do from here. But again, look at the position. All right, how important is that? All right, so we could do like just a hand pull, do a pull from that position. All right, do one more. Okay, good. Now, we can go from this position and also do a clean. All right, so we can hand clean. All right, one more. One more, yep. Okay, all right, okay. See, those are, all those exercises did a couple things, all right, which are important as an athlete. He extended his ankle, he extended his knee, and he extended his hip at the same time. And that happens a lot in athletics, and that's why we have to train these exercises, because that power and explosiveness are important for that, all three of those joints to extend at the same time. All right, so that's really important to get. You can train it a lot of different ways, but these are the things as an athlete that you need to do. And you'd be surprised how quick it helps you, how quick it helps you. Let me go back to another story here. My older son started lifting when he was 8 years old. And we see that green bar, the green plates and that bar there. That bar is like 15 pounds, and the plates, you can get either 5 or 10 pounds. And we were doing, he'd always be in the weight room seeing guys lift, so he wanted to do it. So I just bought him, and again, I didn't know anything about training young kids at this point. At some point I wanted to train my kids. So I buy him a 15-pound bar, which is like this 45-pound bar. All right, this is 45 pounds right here. This is 15. Okay, and I got 10 pounds on each side. I can even lift this. Okay, all right. So we did snatches, we did squats, we did all that stuff. So he started doing this stuff at 8 years of age. And, but we didn't really have him in a program. He just wanted to, I was just working with him on technique. All right, so 10 years of age, he's able to play lacrosse in this middle school league, and this is what he had always wanted to do. So he gets out the league and he wanted to play midfield. That was his position. And he played in this local league in Lexington. All right, and he did okay. He did okay. He was a midfielder and did okay. And actually, the team was a pretty good team. He had a great goalie. And they wound up in the championship game in Charlottesville, which is a little bit different league than the Lexington league. Gets into Charlottesville, we're in the championship game, and we lose. And he didn't play very well at all. As a matter of fact, when he got finished the game, the coach came up to him and said, I think we need to move you to defense. Because, and he didn't tell him this, but the reason was because he wasn't fast enough to play midfield. All right? Which kind of devastated him, because midfield was what he wanted. All right? 10 years old. So I said, so he, I can remember, I still remember the drive home. All right? It was tough. It was tough because, he had his heart set on being a midfielder. And I said, well, you can either move to defense, or we can just try and start lifting and see what happens. All right? We can just start the lifting and get the program going. This is at 10 years of age. And again, I hadn't had any experience with this. I just kind of used him as a guinea pig. This is about 16 years ago. All right? Came back the next year, and nobody could stay with him on the field. He was playing midfield, and nobody could stay with him. All right? I was amazed at what, now he hadn't hit that point where the growth thing kicked in, and it was, a maturity thing. There might have been a little bit of that, but at 10 years of age, when he came back, At that next year for that, I was amazed at how much he had developed in a short period of time. Okay, just because he was doing this kind of stuff, all right, and he was able to get that position back. Goes on and actually was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to play lacrosse at the University of Virginia. You know, he had great experience. He was on the 2006 national championship team. Kevin never got on the field hardly, all right? Freshman year, breaks his 5th metatarsal on his left foot, requires pins and screws. Trains like crazy, comes back the next year, ready to play, gets himself in a position to play, and he overcompensated so much that he broke the 5th metatarsal in his right foot, pins and screws. Okay. Next year, trains, gets himself back in a position to get on the field, breaks the left foot. The doctor had never seen a screw, break a screw, right, come apart. Came apart in his left foot. Trained again to get, most kids would have just said, you know what, the dear Lord's telling me something, I need to go play golf. You know, Kev just wouldn't give up on it, you know, and if you ever look at the stats, he's not going to be in anybody's stat book, I can guarantee you that. But, you know, he trained so hard, and the only way he got it was through here. Unfortunately, you know, he got his mother's athletic ability, which was good, and unfortunately got his dad's feet, I think. So those things just kept breaking on him. Senior year, has shoulder surgery because he had compensated so much with his feet that his upper body was taking too much of a stress, has shoulder surgery, you know, and then missed that season. So, but you know, as proud of him as I could be, simply because where most kids just would have said, the heck with it, you know, this isn't for me, he stayed with it. And the point I guess I'm trying to make is that he got himself back into a position to compete and play every year, and it was only through the weight room. If he didn't have that weight room to get himself to that point, he wouldn't have had that opportunity to do that, okay? So I'm often asked, I'm a little bit ahead of myself, I was going to wait on this topic, but I'm often asked about how old are you? Okay. How old are you guys? 11. Okay, you guys ought to be, you know, you're not too young. You're not too young to do that. And I know as parents you're concerned, gosh, you know, I always heard, and I was a good too, that we're going to impede the growth centers of the bone and stunt growth. And you know when the light came on for me for this? When my boys were small, we lived near a playground near school. And I'd go out there every day. And after school, and they just want to run around. And I thought to myself, if they're jumping off of swings, they're jumping, you know, out of this apparatus, they're bounding on things, if the stress of that doesn't impede or stunt the growth, this absolutely can't hurt them if it's done properly. You know, and I thought at that point, I didn't know how much validity there was to that stunning growth concept. But I knew that if you just watch kids play, 10 years is fine, 11 years is fine, you know. And I would say the sooner the better you can get started, all right? And, you know, obviously what we do with you guys wouldn't be the same thing we do with you guys. There's an awful lot we could do with you guys that would help you a whole lot, so by the time you got their age, you're way ahead of the ball game. You're way ahead of the ball game because the physical component is so important to the game, okay? So important to the game. Any questions on that age thing? Because I know that's often a concern of people that they have with regard to, I'm just a little cautious, you know, about what age to go or you know, you just can't throw yourself into it. Now the technique and form are important. And, you know, I don't want you to just go out there and start swinging and throwing barbells and weights around. But you can start training, and you can do it at a very, very early age. All right? And, again, I just know from personal experience of just working with my boys that
it's such a vital, important part. I've known that for a long time with working with athletes, but having boys myself and bringing them up since they were young and just being around it, I just think it is such a valuable thing. And when you have a facility like this, you don't have to go any place. It's all right here for you. You know, that is extremely valuable to you as an athlete. You know, athletes in this whole area ought to be using the heck out of this thing because, you know, you can get a lot done in a relatively short period of time. Okay. All right. A couple other things I want to talk about. And I learned this at the University of Maryland. I went to the University of Maryland back when Boomer Esiason was a quarterback. Bobby Ross was the head coach, and they were pretty good. But that was also a time when steroids weren't as well regulated as they are now. All right. And it was kind of funny because I went from VMI, all right, where we had guys and they worked hard and they did all that stuff, great guys. Then I went to the University of Maryland and they had guys bench pressing more than we were squatting. They had guys bench pressing 500 plus pounds. They had guys squatting 800, 900 pounds. And I'm thinking, boy, I'm a really bad strength coach, all right? Because we hardly had anybody benching much over 350, and man, 450 might have been it for a squat. And I thought, well, I'm not going to tell anybody what they're doing up here because they're going to fire me when I get back to VMI because we are weak. Now, I think they had a little bit of help, you know, in that, what I found out later, all right? But nevertheless, they were very strong. But there was one season, my second season there, they had a lot of shoulder injuries, okay? And they went back and looked at tackling form and technique, you know, and how they did all that stuff. And do you know what the problem was that caused all of the injuries? It had to do with technique in the weight room, was a part of it. The other part is, what do guys really want to, when you lift, everybody wants to know how much you can. Absolutely. All right. Imbalance of strength. All right. And it wasn't a strength coach who figured it out, it was their athletic trainer. All right. And how they figured it out was, okay, because the exercise that everybody wants to know is how much you can bench press. I get sick of hearing that daggone question. I could care less. It is the least important exercise for any sport, to include football. How much you power clean, how much you vertical jump, and how much you squat. That's all I'm worried about. You know, and if you can do well with those numbers, you got something. The most powerful athletes in the world that have the highest vertical jump are those guys that the world-class Olympic lifters have the highest vertical jump of any group of athletes in the world. Might be a correlation of how they train. Might be a correlation of how they train. But what they did at Maryland, they got so bent up in how much they were bench pressing that all we did was strengthen the anterior deltoid of the shoulder, this pectoral, both sides, all right? So balance, all right? So the strength coach, you know, to include myself, they did a back exercise, all right? So we did lat pull downs, all right? So we're working this muscle. We strengthen this muscle too much so that this is what started to happen. This is how the trainer figured it out. Forward shoulder. Everybody, when they did a vertical posture on them, they all had forward shoulder, which meant what? We were too strong here and, yep, exactly. We didn't have enough posterior strength in the scapula. We were actually in a weight room creating a situation where we were increasing the chance of an injury because we improperly trained. We trained too much here and didn't do any upper back exercises to strengthen the posterior part. All right, so balance in training is rarely very, very important. All right. So if we strengthen this part, we got to strengthen that part. Okay, because football, here was the thought. You're always doing this, we're never, unless you're an offensive lineman, you know, you're not really doing this movement. So we didn't think this movement was important, but what we overlooked was the importance of the anatomy and how it's important to have balance of training. All right? So if we're going to work quads, we need to work hamstrings. All right? The worst muscle pull I have ever seen, this was back in the day in VMI. We had a guy that, our best squatter, never did anything for his hamstrings. I couldn't get him to work his hamstrings. All right? And I think he was on the high test stuff too at that time. All right? We didn't have many, but I think he was looking back on it. Okay? And he ran a 40. We were in the indoor pit at VMI, and I thought a gun had gone off. I looked down the track. He's lying on his face. He had, it was the worst muscle pull I'd ever seen in my life. All right? He had to have it surgically repaired. And it was because he had too much strength in his quadriceps anterior and not enough, he didn't do anything to work his posterior hamstring muscles. Okay? And that was an imbalance. All right? It's an imbalance. All right? So we just got to make sure if we're working the front part of something, we got to work the back part of it. Okay? And that's important. The other thing, there's another concept of balance. If Ryan were to just, let's just say he's going to do some bicep curls. All right? We want to have a little fun at the end of the workout, and we're going to do bicep curls. I'll often, and this is good for you guys, say, okay, do 5 reps on one leg, and then hold this leg up here so that you're, okay, go ahead. Oh, he's going to do 5. Okay, now look at the ankle, look at the knee, and look at the hip. All right, now do 5 with the other. Okay, now the reason that we train like this is because where do most of your injuries occur? Not one specific place, but in general. They occur at what? This is called a joint, right? This is called a joint. So most of your injuries occur at the ankle, at the knee, at the hip, right? So if we're going to do bicep curls, seldom do we do both feet. Okay. So that he's strengthening the ligaments and the tendons around the knee, the ankle, and the joint, so now they're stronger. Right? If we were to do just a lateral raise, we'll do 4 or 5 in this hand, all right? And you can see I don't even have any weight and I'm having trouble standing up. But that's good because now I'm strengthening that joint. Functional strength, all right? Functional strength. I could sit on a machine and do this, okay? Or I could sit in a machine and do this exercise. But as an athlete, you need to stand, you need to work on balance. All right, now I'm not only strengthening this muscle or these muscles, I'm strengthening ankle, knee, hip, and everything. So single leg activities are extremely important for an athlete when we're talking about functional strength. Okay? So anything you can do standing up, you can do that on a single leg. All right, that part of balance is very important as well. Now, from a training standpoint, I put some sheets up there, and I got a couple examples of a workout. All right? Now, you want to change workouts periodically. You don't always want to do the same thing. But if you get a chance and you're interested, take a look at these things. And then, you know, I'll be here today, and you can just ask me some questions. I'll be happy to take anybody that's here, if you have any downtime, to go back here and talk to you about certain things, all right? But how I always have put a program together, and this is starting at a young age, is I work certain body parts one day, and then I work other body parts the next day, so that our goal is to get 3 days a week lifting. And I can do that Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. I can do that Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, all right, because I'm alternating muscle groups. And in high school, it's often difficult to be consistent. So if you alternate body parts, and your goal is to get at least 3 days a week, some days you might get 2, some days you might get 4, you know, some days you might get 3. All right, but you can alternate it, and our workouts take us about 35 minutes. We get in there, every workout starts on the ladder, to get us going. Then we'll do some dynamic flex stuff, loosen up the upper body. Then we do trunk work, okay? And then we get into the lift. All the warm-up stuff takes 8 minutes, and then we get into the lift and we just get it done. And then in 30, 35 minutes, we're completely finished with that lift. All right. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. All right. Any questions on the lifting part? I want to talk about nutrition for a little bit. See if anybody has any questions on that. Then what I like to do is take those guys that are interested, I'll take you through some footwork stuff. I'll set up some ladders. And I know you guys, a lot of you guys have probably used these ladders and everything. But the thing I like about the ladders is that you need, I'll give you some coaching points as we do these things, you need to have quick, light feet. If I'm hearing a bunch of noise, all right, so we're doing these drills, you know, and it's, okay, that ain't going to work. I don't want to hear you, all right? Because as long as your feet are in contact with the ground, you're not moving anywhere. You're in contact with the ground. So the concept of quick, light feet for an athlete is very, very important. So this works on coordination. It works on, you know, your agility. But it also, I think, hones in on the concept that quick, light feet are really what it's all about. You don't want to have heavy feet, okay? And that's where these ladders. So when I get done talking, I'll do a little bit of a warm-up with some guys, and we'll just do some basic stuff, and I'll show you some things that I think are important. Ladders are like lifting. You can use them the right way, or you can use them the wrong way. All right, if you're going to use them, you might as well use them the right way. All right, and great tool, great tool. The other thing that I like in this, see these TRX straps? Right, pull a couple straps back, face the wall, and do like a single leg squat. Yep. These things are a great training tool. You can do a lot of different things with these straps for lower and upper body, and it's just body weight stuff, okay? You know, we use these things a lot, these TRX straps. Young guys, great tool to start off with. Older guys, a great tool to use for variation of training. Great tool, okay? All right, so I want to talk about nutrition real quick, and then if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer those, and then we'll do, if we got a little bit of time to do a group thing, a little warm-up, 4 o'clock, or we can do a little bit of footwork stuff with you, okay? So the nutrition part, okay, everybody knows it's important. I would say the thing that really bothers me with young kids is that we rely too much on what supplement should I take? And the answer is none. Eat well. Drink well. All right? You don't need supplements. You get all the vitamins and minerals in the food you eat. Eat the proper foods. Eat the proper proportions of foods. All right? Drink plenty of water. Drink skim milk. Minimize the amount of sugar that you drink. All right? We get ourselves into trouble because any place you go now, you can walk into any fast food place and nail down about 1,200 calories of soda in no time at all, which is doing nothing but putting fat on you. Okay? Absolutely nothing but putting fat on you. All right? What you eat is the gasoline for your body, the analogy of the car. All right? And if you put bad stuff in, you're going to sputter. It took me way too long to figure this out. All right? Way too long. But I'm telling you, it is so important, especially for young athletes, to eat proper. All right? If you want to take a supplement, I would just advise you to be cautious, because you don't. I read those supplements, and I can't pronounce half of the. I mean, they're just, you know, they're syllables. You know, they're 25 letters long. I don't know what the stuff is. All right? 60% of your diet should be carbs. You need about 20 25% protein, and then the rest fat. All right? And you need to eat frequently. Don't go long periods. All right? Eat 500-600 calories. A couple hours later, eat 600-800 calories. You know, a couple hours later, eat some more. I know it's tough during the school day, but anytime you go long periods without eating, I don't want to get too complicated about this, but here's what happens. Your brain needs a constant supply of glucose. It's called gluconeogenesis. All right? If you don't eat as an athlete, your brain's going to need it. And it's taking it from here. It's taking it from here. It's taking protein, converting it to glucose, so your brain has a constant supply. All right? So if he's training to be a good athlete and eating poor, he's actually breaking down muscle fiber, so this thing doesn't check out on him. He needs, it's going to get glucose, but you don't want it to get it from here. He's got to eat well. He's got to get up in the morning and eat a good breakfast. He's got to eat a little bit of snack. He's got to eat lunch. He's got to have another snack. He's got to eat dinner. He's got to have another snack. And then go to bed and start it all over again. All right? Long periods without eating is bad. And then what happens? If I go long periods and I probably overeat. How much do you weigh?
185.
Okay, 185, great weight. Probably take 800 calories in with no problem. Probably 900 calories. All right, but say he hadn't eaten dinner. I mean, hadn't eaten lunch, comes home at dinner, and he's eating everything in sight. As long as it isn't nailed down, he's eating it. And he takes in about 2,500 calories, which he could do at 185 pounds, believe me. All right? About 1,700 of those calories are now getting converted to fat because his body at 185 can only digest and assimilate in about a 2.5 hour period, 800 calories or 900 calories. He's making fat. So if you take in, I'd say you probably need 3,800 calories a day or more. If you take that in 2 meals, okay, which would be what, 3,800 would be 1,900 calories, okay, or you took 38 in 5 or 6 meals, your body and your physical performance are going to be completely different with 5 meals of 3,800 calories versus 2 meals of 1,900 calories because of how the glucose, that's your gasoline. You got to have it, and it's got to come from your diet. All right, and he's going to be sputtering like crazy. You ever had those days where you go out to practice and you feel like you got 2 cement blocks on your feet? A lot has to do with how you ate the previous day. All right, a lot has to do. All right, so if we talk about the pregame meal being the most important meal, really the most important meal is a postgame meal, because that's what replenishes your glycogen stores. I'm not saying that pregame isn't important, but if you go to a postgame meal and you go to McDonald's and you get the fries and the burger and the shake, I can guarantee you tomorrow isn't going to be a good day for you. It isn't going to be a good day because your body isn't going to get the glucose it needs. It needs to get some pasta. It needs to get some whole grain. It needs to get some wheat. It needs to get those types of things, fruits and vegetables. You know, and then if you're having a Big Mac attack, go get the Big Mac. But get the good stuff in you first, and I guarantee you, your practice the next day, it's going to be feet feel good, legs feel light. Man, you're just hitting on all cylinders, and it's just simple diet and nutrition, right? And it means a lot. So I'm not saying you should never take a supplement. I would just spend a little bit more time and effort learning how to eat properly, because I think it would pay great dividends for you. Okay, I feel like I'm boring everybody to death here. So any questions I can help you with on any of this stuff, on training? Okay, it's, again, I think it's great this session was included because it is important. And, I appreciate you all listening. And I hope it's been helpful and beneficial. I'll set these things up. And then we can.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
I'm a Virginia Tech graduate, and I'm like you. I wish everybody in here was a Virginia Tech fan, but they're not. So they might not know who Danny is, but Danny called. None of the coaches wanted him, He didn't want to play at UVA, by the way, right?
Yeah, my older son was at UVA, and he wanted to get recruited to play football there, but UVA didn't think he could play football for him.
Right.
So, yeah.
You can tell me.
So he just, so we went to Wake Forest, we went to NC State, we went to Vanderbilt, we went Virginia, we went quite a few places. And Danny timed about as good as anybody times. He was a wide receiver, caught about every pass thrown to him. And, you know, he just didn't fit the profile, I guess, what everybody was looking for in a wide receiver. All right? So it was getting down to the point where he had to make a decision of what to do, and he didn't want to give up on football, but he wanted to play. He wanted to try and play Division I something. And he had played lacrosse in high school, so he was just going to go to Virginia and play lacrosse because really nobody was interested in him playing football. This is the other point that I think is important. You always got to play like you got something to prove to somebody. All right? I don't care how good you are. If you've got the attitude, you have to prove something to somebody, you're going to make it. I can guarantee you, you're going to be successful. All right? Because all along, even though we were getting disappointed and Danny wasn't getting any looks and nobody was signing him, it just kept burning inside of him. Just kept burning inside of him. And we went to Virginia, and the coach that recruited him was Bud Foster, who's a defensive coordinator. And he called me up and said, I want to take a look at Danny. And I said to him, I said, you know what? We've been a lot of places, and we've been through the routine, and I don't even think it's worth us coming down because I know what you're going to say. You got better people. He doesn't fit the profile. And, you know, we don't want to go through it again. Danny's been through it enough. And he said, if Danny comes down here and does what I think he can do, he'll have a scholarship when he leaves. So Danny goes down, did about the same thing he'd done every place else. They were holding true. They gave him a scholarship. All right? So he's got a scholarship. All he wanted was an opportunity, you know, and he was fortunate to get it. He was also fortunate when he came in at a wide receiver that the guys in front of him were graduating. So the cupboard was kind of bare. He had an opportunity. All right? So, I mean, I don't want to go nuts on Danny, but you know, here's a kid that nobody really wanted, and he leaves Virginia Tech as the all-time 2-number receiver in the history of the school. And a lot has to do with just this idea that, you know, he didn't belong, or nobody really wanted to give him a chance. Okay, and he just worked so hard. He just worked so hard at it that, you know, he was fortunate that it worked out. There's no guarantee in life in anything. You know, like my older son he had a horrible experience really athletically, but had a great growth experience. He learned a lot going through what he went through, breaking bones and having surgeries. I mean, he dealt with adversity about as much as anybody had to. So it wasn't an experience that wasn't worth it. All right, Danny's experience was a little different, but he had to really work hard at it. And there are a lot of people that work hard, but, you know, I think he you know, put about as much effort in it as anybody could. All right, so, and he's got some opportunities now, you know, and I don't know if how that's going to work for him or not work for him, but I know one thing: he's going to give it his best shot, and that's all you can do. That's all you can do. You don't want to go out of it and have regrets. Well, I should have done this, or I could have done that, or I should have done this a little bit better. All right? You don't want to do that. Okay? Do as much as you can to make yourself the best baseball player you can. All right? And good things will happen to you. All right? And part of that piece of pie is this stuff right here. All right? It's not the answer to everything. All right? You can't work in here and not do that stuff. You got to work on all that stuff. But this stuff will help you a whole lot. This stuff will help you a whole lot. All right? All right, great.